The National American Women's Suffrage Association, NASA, was a U.S. feminist organization founded in 1890. NASA originated from two different feminist organizations, the National Women's Suffrage Association, NWSA, and the American Women's Suffrage Association, AWSA. Both groups held deep idealistic and strategic differences in fighting for women's rights. AWSA was led by Lucy Stone and Antoinette Brown, who branded support for the 15th Amendment and the enfranchisement of black males. The NWSA, led by Susan B. Anthony and Elizabeth Cady Stanton, believed females should be enfranchised alongside black males and focused on constitutional changes and the message of equality. The two groups later settled their differences, however, and emerged as the National American Women's Suffrage Association in 1890. Although tensions concerning the feminist scope remained, the organization continued to work together to separate themselves from traditional party politics like other organizations had done.
NASA's main goals were to enfranchise women, gain support in women's suffrage, and most importantly, get women the right to vote. NASA felt that enfranchised women would be able to protect their children better by providing important necessities, and would double the income of the household. They also felt that in promoting working women, the extra labor would create a better economy. Factories would gain more help, and work considered as women's work, like creating shoes and garments, would no longer belong to men. NASA also believed that enfranchised women could prove their liability of citizenship to the government. If working women demonstrated duties of citizenship, it would verify their accountability to vote. NASA's goal to gain support for women's suffrage was strategically done. In order to gain more members, they organized dinners for the middle and upper class, asked for support from important men, and even organized a parade the same day President Woodrow Wilson was giving his inaugural address. This parade contained women from all classes, and was held out in public for anyone and everyone to see. One of their most effective movements to gain support was their campaigns outside the White House. Women would take shifts standing outside the gates, and with hundreds of people passing by, they were sure to grab attention. To accomplish their most important goal, NASA aimed at earning male support to get stronger in their campaign for voting. They were very careful not to lose their male support and maintained to call themselves suffragists rather than feminist suffragists like other organizations had done.
Anna Howard Shaw was the fourth president of NASA and was known as a very strong suffragist leader and feminist. She implemented many changes for the organization. Shaw fought hard for support in women's voting rights. She also gained control of the division of suffrage for a women's Christian temperance union. Carrie Chapman Catt was a well-known leader of women's suffrage who thought women were just as equal as men. Her ideals were strong enough to gain other support and later became president of NASA. Her presidency of the organization was followed on soon after Anna Shaw, becoming the last president for the organization. She strongly believed that women had a say in politics. Catt felt that because women paid for taxes, they should equally have a say in politics also, especially since taxation so far had been done without the representation of women. President Woodrow Wilson played a crucial role in women's suffrage when he became president. Because of his presidency during NASA's highest point, he faced many problems with strong women suffragists like Carrie Catt and Alice Paul. Wilson at first did not believe in giving rights to women. That changed, however, when hard-fighting women suffragists convinced him otherwise. His views changed, and later on into his presidency helped pass the 19th Amendment. Alice Paul was a very strong woman suffragist who fought hard for women's rights. Paul even organized a parade that represented women's rights. She wanted to prove to everyone how strong and liable women were. She even went as far as to picket outside of the White House on January 10, 1917, with a huge sign reading, "Mr. President, how long must women wait for liberty?" She did this to convince President Wilson that women's rights were important, and he needed to do more about the limitations set for all women. Miss Paul formed a separate organization from NASA, known as the WPA, Women's Political Party, when she sensed that the organization wasn't doing enough. Paul was probably the most active feminist in the 1910s, who did everything within her power to ensure that women received equal rights. She especially fought hard for women's right to vote.
In 1918, NASA and other suffragist groups had gained support for women's suffrage from President Wilson. 1 year later, the 19th Amendment granting the U.S. women's right to vote was passed by Congress. And in 1920, Tennessee became the last and final state the amendment needed to become ratified and stood law. The 72-year hard-fought battle had finally been won, and women couldn't have felt any freer. NASA's accomplishments were impressive for both women and the community, and their ideals to improve society have felt a lasting impression.